All right, here we have section 3.4, which is slope-intercept form of a linear equation. And yeah, let's see what we got here. Okay, so in the last section, we had something like y is equal to 1/2 x plus 9. And we found out that the coefficient for the x term was equal to the slope, okay? Well, we actually use this form. Remember standard form. We have a number times x plus a number times y is equal to a constant. This is called standard form, and we use it for different things. This form right here, we use it for different things, okay? So this is a very helpful form, one of which is to find the slope, like we did in the last section. So we found the slope of a line by solving for y. And the coefficient of the x term is the slope. So in this particular example, y is equal to 2x plus 3. This 2 is the slope. Well, the 3 actually is something as well. So if we were to find the y-intercept, if you recall to find the y-intercept, we take 0 and we plug it in for x. Okay, so here we go. We take 0 and we plug it in for x. So we have y is equal to 2 times 0 plus 3. Notice I get y is equal to 3. So in this particular example, my y-intercept is the point 0, 3. Well, it's not a coincidence that this number is the same as this number, because this is always going to be 0 when we plug in 0, which is how we find a y-intercept. So having this line set up, or this equation set up like this, both of these numbers actually tell us something about the graph. This tells us our slope, and this we call it b, but it gives us the y part of our y-intercept. And we know the x is 0 because it's a y-intercept. We call this slope-intercept form. The reason why we call it slope-intercept form is because this number is our slope, and this gives us the y value for the y-intercept. So y equals mx plus b, that's called slope-intercept form. Y equals mx plus b, slope-intercept form, because this number is the slope, and this number gives us the y part of the y-intercept. Okay, identify the slope and the y-intercept. So y equals mx plus b. So my m is this number right here, 3/4. And my b is equal to -6, which makes my y-intercept the point 0, -6. Now this one is a little bit different, but notice I could write this as plus 0. Plus adding 0 does not change the original equation. So this number right here is going to give me my slope, and my b in this case is 0. So my y-intercept, my x is always 0 for y-intercept, but this time my b is also 0. This is why slope-intercept form is so very nice to use, is because graphing is so much easier if it's in slope-intercept form. So here we go. First thing you want to do is make sure it's written in slope-intercept form. Figure out what the y-intercept is, plot that point, and then figure out what the slope is and use rise over run to find another point on the graph. Here's what's important. From the y-intercept. For some reason, I'm not sure why, people find the y-intercept, and then when they do rise over run, they start from 0, 0. That's not going to work. You have to start from the y-intercept. And here we go. So we want to graph it using the slope and the y-intercept. So we're going to solve for y. I'm going to subtract 3x. And I have -4y is equal to -3x plus 8. Divide by -4. Remember, a negative divided by negative is positive, so I have 3/4 x minus 2. Okay, so we have it in slope-intercept form. That was step 1. Step 2 is to figure out what the y-intercept is. So we know it's always going to be 0 for the x, and our b is -2. So we're going to plot that point, 0, -2. And then we're going to find the slope, which is 3/4. And remember, this is rise over run. So this is how many, it's a +3 over a +4. This is how many we go up, how many we go to the right. We're going to go up 3, 1, 2, 3, to the right 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. By the way, had we kept, I wouldn't expect you to, but I'm just showing you, had we kept this as -3 over -4, sorry, -3 over -4, I could go down 3, 1, 2, 3, and to the left 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Notice that it lines up perfectly with my first 2 points that I plotted. Okay, so we could either go up 3, right 3, or we could go down 3, left 3. Graph the line passing through this point. So we're going to plot that point first to -3 with a slope of -1/3. Slope of -1/3. Now, you can double check this on your calculator, but if I take a -1 and divide it by a +3, it will be the same as a +1 divided by a -3, which will be exactly the same as taking a +1 divided by a +3 and making the whole thing negative. Okay, so it doesn't matter where we put the negative, but keep in mind, we only get to use the -1. So we can either go down and to the right, and I have to get my video out. Oh, that's not what I wanted to do. We can either go down 1 and to the right 3. I knew that was going to happen. Right here, down 1 to the right 3. Or we can go up 1 to the left 3. 1, 2, 3, and notice all 3 points line up like that. Do be careful. You cannot go down and to the left. You only get to use the -1s. Write an equation using the slope and any point on the line. Okay, this is one way to write an equation. It's not generally the traditional way to write an equation, but it is certainly possible to write an equation this way. In the next section, we're going to talk about a different way of writing equations. To be honest, it doesn't really matter which method you use as long as you are capable of writing an equation. So you will need to be able to do that. So this method says you're going to use y equals mx plus b, and you need to find your m, and you need to find your b. Sometimes we give you m, sometimes you have to find it yourself with the information we give you, and you also have to find b. Again, sometimes we give it to you, and sometimes you have to find it yourself with the information we give you. So this point, I know this is my y-intercept because my x is 0. So that tells me that I have my b equal to 5. And it also told us my m was equal to -1. So I'm going to take these numbers, I'm going to substitute in. I'm going to replace my m with -1 and my b with 5. And you can write this as -x plus 5. Now, let's suppose you did not happen to notice that this was the y-intercept. It's possible it happens. We get careless and we are going through. I'm going to show you how to do this if you don't happen to notice that this is the y-intercept. So what we're going to do is we're going to replace our y with this number right here, and we're going to replace our x with this number right here, and we're going to replace our m with this number right here. So place our y with 5, our m with -1, our x was 0, and we don't know what b is. Okay, let's suppose we didn't know what b was. So -1 times 0 is 0, and we end up with a b is equal to 5. So that allows me to continue from there. Okay, so either way will work. This just takes a little bit more time if you don't happen to notice that this is our y-intercept. Now, this, oh, hold on. And it did not say how it wanted the equation to look, so we're just going to leave it as slope-intercept form. However, this one wants the answer in standard form, not slope-intercept form. So we were not given the y-intercept. We were given m. So what we're going to have to do is we are going to have to do that second method that I showed you on the last slide. We're going to replace our y with 4, our m with -2, our x with -1, plus b. We're actually going to have to find b because it's not given to us. So 4 is equal to 2 plus b. Subtract 2. We have 2 is equal to b. Okay, so now I have b and now I have m. So remember, y is equal to mx plus b. I want to tell you right now, you cannot write an equation in standard form. You can write the answer in standard form. You cannot write an original equation in standard form. It's impossible. You cannot do it. Don't try. So if it asks for the answer in standard form, then you have to first do slope-intercept form. So y is equal to -2x plus our b was equal to 2. And then once you have it in slope-intercept form, then you have to put it in standard form. Now remember, standard form has the x and y on the same side. There's a couple more things you have to have for standard form. So there's 3 things, and I want you to write them down. The first thing, you have to have the x and the y on the same side, on the left. Second thing, the coefficient for x has to be positive. Okay, coefficient for x has to be positive. And the third thing, no fractions or decimals. Okay, so this is standard form. All right, x and y have to be on the same side. X has to be positive, no fractions, no decimals. So what we're going to do is we're going to add our 2x to both sides so that we can get our x and y on the same side. So do that first. 2x plus y is equal to 2. Then we're going to check to make sure our x value is positive. It is, so we don't have to worry about this one. This one's already done. This one's already done. And then we also have to check to make sure there's no fractions or decimals. Well, there's no fractions or decimals, so that one's done as well. So there we go. That would be our answer. Now, if this had been a -2, we would have had to have multiplied the entire, multiply every term by -1. Okay, so that's how we deal with this. If our x ends up being negative, we have to multiply every term by -1 to make it positive. Okay, graph and write equations of horizontal and vertical lines. Okay, so 1, -2 has to go through that point. So 1, -2. We need an undefined slope. Now, if you recall from the last section, undefined slope was a vertical line. Okay, vertical line. So it's got to be vertical. And vertical lines are of the form x is equal to a number. X is equal to a. So we just have to figure out what our x is equal to on this line. Well, it's right there. X is equal to 1. Okay. And I didn't read the directions. It says graph each line. It didn't say write the equation, but I think on the next slide it's going to actually make us write the equation. So we have graphed it, and we actually wrote the equation as well. So we did a little bit extra. Sorry about that. Graph. So it has to go through -2, -1 with a slope of 0. So -2, -1 with a slope of 0. Remember, a 0 is a horizontal line. So here's our graph. And so here's our horizontal. And if you have a horizontal line, you know that is of the form y is equal to a number. And our y is right there. So y is equal to -1. So we graphed it and we actually wrote the equation as well. A little bit of extra work, but I think if I recall correctly, write an equation. So undefined slope going through this point. Undefined slope is a vertical line. So -5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, -3. Undefined slope, that's going to be vertical. That's of the form x is equal to a number. What is my x equal to? -5. Write an equation with a slope of 0 going through the same point as on the last slide. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, so this time we have a slope of 0, which makes it a horizontal line, which means it's going to be y is equal to a number, and there's our y right there. Y is equal to -3. All right,